welcome everybody to this special edition of Leadership Updates and Dialogues, celebrating Black History Month. And I want to give a very warm welcome to lady in front of us, Miss Jully Black. Some of you may know her as the award-winning Queen of R&B. She is also an actor. She is also sometimes known as an activist, she told me. There are many layers of this wonderful woman. So let me start by thanking you, Jully, and welcoming you to our dialogue here. And thank you for being part of it.
Thank you. Yes, emojis. I love it. Gifts all day. It's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure. I put on face for you, everybody. See, all 30 plus, I put lashes on for y'all today, okay? We lashing it up to make sure you can see me all the way.
I also already got to ask, Jully, Andrea, what color lipstick are you wearing? Because it's never this bright, but I did it for you because I knew you'd have it on, so I put mine on too.
Good.
But it's the first time we really are doing it kind of live like this, so putting a lot of faith in this, in you.
In us. We have a relationship. It is just like, well, I mean, I think I might know a little bit more now about you as we've been kicking it, so we won't keep it super sister girl, because this is yeah.
We'll keep it real though. We will keep it real. I know we'll have an honest conversation, which is what everybody's looking for. Before, I know we are celebrating Black History this month, and I wanted to start, before we really get into the meat of it, I wanted to ask you, because I recently learned that you, Miss Jully Black, are being learned about in schools by the students today. And I thought, what does that feel like to you to be the topic of conversation for all these young minds and these hearts and these citizens of tomorrow, these leaders of tomorrow? What does it feel to you that they're studying and learning about you?
Well, it's interesting because I feel a little, I get a little bit of the imposter syndrome that kicks in, where I'm like, me, they're studying me, because for all these years making music and speaking and all the other things that I do, it's always been about what's next. What's next has been about the pursuit, just based on region, based on Canada, being a little behind when it comes to Black art. And so as kids are learning about me, some of my friends' kids are learning about me, like I'm Auntie Jully. So the crazy thing is, like, kids that call me Auntie Jully that don't really know, like 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, that see me pop up on their screen. I've had my godson, Elias, is like, I came up on his screen, and his mom videotaped, because his first reaction was just like, oh, but that's Auntie Jully.
It's Auntie Jully. What's she doing there?
Right. So I'm super humbled, honored. I feel like it's a blessing to represent my parents' sacrifices coming from Jamaica and being the only born Canadian of the 9 kids. I was born a twin, so of the 7, and my brother passed away. So it's pretty cool. It's cool. I'm getting used to it. Now I'm like, okay, so now that I'm in these history books here, okay, what else do I want to? How could I use my voice to amplify other voices?
And I know you love the bridge analogy. We could roll up your sleeves and show everybody your bridge. Yeah, your mission to be a bridge and connect people. Yeah. No, well done. So thank you for sharing that. And I also wanted to start, a natural place to start the conversation is with the beginning. So I thought we could talk a little bit about what brought you and I together, how we became acquainted and that journey, because I think some people might look at us and say, wow, an unlikely match. How did they end up in the same world? And now that I've gotten to know you, I think, how did we ever not end up in the same world till this late stage in my life? And I'm glad you did. So when I first learned about you, I don't know if you want to start or with the program that I was introduced to that you have. And then when I did a little more research on you, and I thought, this woman is passionate about building community. I'm passionate about building community at Tridel. We're passionate about community building. So we already have so much in common. And then I kind of fell in love with your expression of, unity is our strength and community is our currency. So I thought, I don't know where you want to start. If you want to start with that, or you want to start with how we met. I mean, we met on a very human element, not a Jully Black, award-winning singer and actor and all of those wonderful things. I met you in a time of need. And it was, like you said, our humanity that brought us together.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so we have a mutual friend, Christina.
Mhm.
And so for about almost 3 years, my mom passed away in 2017. And at that time, I've always been healthy and an athlete. And I basically defaulted to chips, amaretto, and 7 Up. And that was
I didn't
what
see that on anyone's lunch today, but it's a good one.
chips, amaretto, and 7 Up. Like that was that. And I have a pretty fast metabolism, so it wasn't even about like gaining weight but I started to feel terrible. And I often say you aren't what you eat, but you eat what you are. And what I was eating was letting me know that I was beginning to give up. I was beginning to have this kind of passive life, and it was time. And grief was pinning me down. Grief had its foot in my neck. And so, typical Jully fashion, being that singer that didn't see anybody that looked like me on TV from Canada, or heard anybody on radio that sounded like me from Canada. I say that specifically because, of course, we had Aretha and Gladys Knight and Patti LaBelle and all that good stuff. But there's no one from here. And similarly, I was looking for a grief and loss support to serve just kind of me, the person who I know I am. And I wasn't out there. As I was looking, I found like mothers who lost children to like the opioid crisis, or mothers against drunk driving, or different things, which all matter, but there just wasn't something that was like that just suited me. And so I decided to build one, to start a grief and loss support group.
Yes.
Called In the Arms of an Angel. And that's basically the bridge that connected Andrea and I. And interestingly enough, I started the program not as a grief and loss support group in that way. I started it as a workout group. And this part you don't know, actually. So positive motion equals positive emotion. That's been my thing for years. Positive motion equals positive emotion. Get moving, you're going to feel better. No matter what, you will feel better. And so I did this contest on Instagram called In the Arms of an Angel. It was skipping ropes. And it was skipping for the length of my song, Sweat of Your Brow, every day for 7 days, honoring a fallen loved one. And then Adidas came on board and gave prizes. And then people started to feel really good. And that whole In the Arms of an Angel, In the Arms of an Angel, like, okay, in the Sarah McLachlan song, In the Arms of an Angel, right? And so I did it again. And this time we just like, let's turn it into a club. And it's a club that is forever going to grow. And I say that in the most positive way, where, no one's getting out of here alive. Ain't nobody
We got that in common. We got that in common.
Right? And so, to make a long story short, we were introduced through In the Arms of an Angel, when you Papa Bear transitioned to meet my Mama Bear. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, that's a bit of a segue to a term you taught me, which is, we always say community, and we have that in common, but common unity. And to your point, we're all going to experience the loss of a loved one. And, one of the differences, my aha moment out of the gate was, we look at community as physical spaces, right? And buildings. And it's really so much more than that. And the community you're building, especially in the world where we have COVID, and I know you said we've been locked in, we're not locked down, but we've all had to build community in different ways. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily about geography anymore. Community is so much more. It's belonging and acceptance. And I had asked you what your community was like growing up. And you said, what do you mean my community? I said, well, yeah, not really the physical community, but the people and the spaces you surrounded yourself, I guess. And so from the evolution of where you grew up and how you grew up to, with the home you're living in now, and with that journey of home ownership, and even I know there's a generational kind of connection to you when it comes to home ownership, and with your mom, Agatha. So maybe just a little bit about community and home and all the meaning and how those tied together, and what it meant to you and your mother and the connection there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was raised in the Jane Finch community, which is interesting because as I grew older, I'm like, Jane and Finch I did a photo shoot recently for Metrolinx, and we wanted to go back to my old community. And so I stood on the intersection, and I was like, wow, this intersection has defined the entire community. Jane Finch, there's not a house, there's not an apartment, there's not even a tent on the intersection, and it was labeled, and it was not labeled correctly. And so growing up for me, I had the best upbringing. It was very multicultural. I loved that. Though we were in Toronto's Toronto Housing Authority in the Metro Housing. That was Toronto City. We just called it Metro Housing back in the day. It was just called Metro Housing. You know, as far as being in my neighborhood, right across the street, like a stone throw, as my mom would say, was Johnny Papa Spiro's house. You know, and Anna Noviali. And so it's like, okay, and then there was Chigang and Jyoti, who's Indian, and you know, so it's like, okay, though you would think it was like all Black people. No, and we were able to. What really bonded us was our palate. We would.
Yes, you said that. The food, it brought exposure to all that different food and music, you said.
And music. And who was bringing baklava? And then who's bringing this? Like, all of this. We were kids. We didn't know anything but, listen, we all go to the same school. We sit in the same class. We walk home. The beauty is we would walk home as we're walking home. And then we kind of just, okay, see you tomorrow. And then everybody went to where they lived. But we were looking forward to the next day getting back to school. And so it was beautiful, beautiful upbringing. My mom was a mother of 9, and my parents divorced when I was 10. And but she also fostered, and she also took in at-risk youth, pregnant teens. My mom worked for General Motors, and when she got that job in particular, she had more than enough. Like, she taught us what enough really meant. We didn't do without, and she taught us how to share. And so it was a beautiful thing to really understand what family versus relatives. And I hold that in my heart very dearly. I feel emotion behind my eyes, because many people think that because we have the same blood in our veins, that because we're related, then there's an obligation, or then you could kind of like, there's expectation. But when you choose a family, like, you're my chosen family, I'm your chosen family. You know what I mean? Like, some of the things that we've experienced in the last 3 months, in joy, in celebration, you know, in helping one another out, I have an experience with with people who share the same blood.
Yeah, and sometimes it surprises you in times of need. It's not always those that you would expect that are there for you, right? It's those family by choice that I think come through quite often.
Yeah.
It's an important appreciation of that. Now, I know you had your mother was a bit of a driving force, a lot of a driving force for you and your mission and your purpose, and she was your why, you said. And when one thing you wanted to see through was giving her home ownership, and you talked about putting her name on the deed and getting it done, and you did. And I just think as community builders and home builders, and sometimes no matter what your role is, we talked about whether you were, you know, delivering the food on the construction site, to someone working on invoicing, to someone, what you're contributing to and the impact you can have on someone's life. And I just thought the story of your mother and how you helped to have her achieve that is a beautiful story. So I thought if you could share a bit about that.
Yeah, and you know how it goes. Tears are a language God understands.
They are. Yeah, you taught me that. Yeah. It's universal. It's a language God understands.
That's right. So my parents owned a home before, when I was little, when I was like 2. And I heard, my mom told me this story later on, and actually I've never shared this story publicly. So they owned a home, and then I guess this was the beginning when like Toronto housing kind of became a thing. You know, it wasn't always like run down and all that. It was like okay, so subsidized housing, etc. So they sold that place and moved into subsidized housing once they started to bring the kids up from Jamaica. Anyway, when my parents divorced, now my mom kind of ended up stuck there. She didn't have the second income to do it together. And so anyway, as a little girl, like, I would hear conversations of what it was like, how my mom truly felt in paying market rent, you know, over $1,000, and then the person next door paying rent is $81. I'll never forget that number, $81. Mm-hmm. And some people need that. So it's not a matter of saying, oh, you don't need it, or da da da. It's there for a reason, right? But at 12 years old, after my sister passed away, she's my original wife, Sharon, I knew somehow I'm gonna get us out of this place, no matter how long it takes. We get us out of this place, and mom is going to own her own place, put her name on the deed and all that. But what happened was I bought my house first, and I almost didn't buy it. So I moved back home. I was in the theater production called The Kink in My Hair, and I had a mission to buy a house. I was 26, so I was like, okay, it's time. Because I'd gotten 2 record deals, and the management mismanaged money, and I could have bought a home way earlier. But 26 is still young, whatever. So anyway, I get this opportunity to buy a house. But so mom's like, well, come back home and save your money. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, really? She's like, come move back home, save your money. So I stacked up the money, and now I'm buying this house in Markham, and I felt guilty. I felt guilty to be the first homeowner in Canada of my whole family, right? Because all my mom's family's in Chicago. Whole other story. We don't have time for all that. Yeah. So I buy this house, and I remember going in with my mom, getting the keys, and we walked around the place, and I bought a sizable house. and I bought a sizable house. It was based on fear. So it's like, okay, if everybody runs into hard times, my sister can live in the basement.
We've got room for everybody. Everybody's coming.
Everybody, okay? It got to the point where I'm 9 years in. Ain't nobody run into no hard times. I'm living in this house and taking how much to cool it and heat it and grass and this, and I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah. So anyway, I was able to, homeowning is quite the investment. So I was able to take some of the equity and do all that other good stuff and give my mom an awesome down payment for her to have her own place. And I remember that day driving down, and actually Dan Hill, singer Dan Hill, who's a mentor and friend, his wife, now ex-wife, Bev Chapin, she did the deal. And we went down to her office and sat there. She sat with mom, and mom signed. She looked at her. She said, I can't believe my name. She called me Ju. She's like, Ju, for real? Like, yeah, mom. It's yours. Like, this is you. You own this. You own this, you know? And the pride and the joy, and I was like, Mom, I just want to keep making you proud. And I'll never forget, she said this to me. She said, Ju, you can't put pride on top of pride. I'm already proud.
Oh, yeah.
And that just, you know what I mean? It just totally just, oh my gosh, my mom was the best. So yeah, but my mom in that kept the same mindset of community building and brought it into her where she was. Yeah.
So we talked about that, and you said your mom brought community to her condo. I thought, what does that mean? Because condo is community. What does that mean? But then I think back and think, okay, you've got some condos where people are riding the elevator, not looking at anybody, not talking to anybody. So when you say she brought community to her condo, I said, what does that mean to you? And you talked about service.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. My mom, especially being so independent in her 70s and 80s, she lived to 81, the same Janet Jaden Finch mindset of making sure she knows the butcher, making sure she says hello to everybody. We had 2 dogs, so she was the woman known for the dogs. So there's a lady with the dogs. And it wasn't until she passed away and we went back to, do what we had to do, and we're still in the neighborhood. And people, I looked so much like her, and they would see me go bring her grocery shopping and all that sometimes. So they're like, oh my gosh, they call her Miss Mac. Like, Miss Mac would come and she gave me such good advice and all types of stuff my mom was doing in her condo life. And she brought community to her condo.
And now you're living that, and you're bringing it to your condo, because I know you told me you know all your neighbors, and I thought you told me a great story about noise, because for you stepping in your condo, we get noise issues for sure, but the person living below you, beside you, I don't know, they might hear some stepping. So that's a funny story I'd love you to talk about, and how community, really, if you're in community, you can solve those problems. And
community is a mindset. You can bring community. You bring community anywhere. You can bring community on the airplane with you. You can bring. Sometimes people got too much community. I'm like, I'm trying to sleep. You're talking too much. Okay, but it is a mindset. And so, it's pandemic, man. People working from home. Well, I work from home. I'm a musician, and I am a step instructor and all the other things. So we step early, and we step not too late, but usually early. Anyway. So I'm getting my thing on, stepping, do my classes. I see something slip under my door, a white piece of paper talking about noise complaints. I read the thing. Okay. Call Rainbow. I say, I know these people too. I call Rainbow and Peter. I don't know what's good. I was an email like, what's going on? What's up with this noise? Oh, your neighbor's saying that between this time and this time, there's a lot of noise, right? I'm like, noise. I got the rubber down and all that. I said, okay, no problem. So I left and I went and knocked on my neighbor's doors. Dum dum dum. Hey, because even when I have like get-togethers here, that's what we did back in Jane and Finch. Hey, we're having a party. Just so you know, it's gonna be noisy at X amount of time, but no problem. So I knocked on the door, like, no, we love hearing the music. One lady next door, love it, no problem. Went knocked the other guy's door, Michael. I said, hey, Michael, what's up? I hear they're saying that it's noise complaints.
He just wanted an invite to the party. That's all. He's coming to the party.
Like, no. Turns out it's the lady underneath. Right? So there's a whole other story about that lady that I won't even share right now. She's a bit grumpy. But at the end of the day, what I did is I said, okay, look, let's meet in the middle here, because this is I'm working from home. And sometimes I'll be here stepping at 2 in the afternoon. She's trying to say there's noise. Well, you got to figure something out. Right. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's Saturday.
Little give and take. Yeah, right. Little give and take. The point is communicate.
Like, I'm not just going to drive into the underground, take my elevator straight up. I know Ali. I know Muhammad. I know Michael. Selma. I know all my concierge security people.
I got to say, though, I think we all want a neighbor that's called Rainbow. What a beautiful name for a neighbor. I want a neighbor named Rainbow. We also talked about as important as home is, and your sharing community, and it's a mindset. There's a bit of a tendency as you scale up, right? And you go from one level of housing, and then you have more ability and more means. So you might have $1 million condo. And we talked about that. Regardless of what your shelter looks like, you can't change who you are, right? And I told you a story.
Tell your story.
Of what?
You tell your story about how you felt about being dropped off.
Yeah, I'll tell my story. So we talked about, I had met a student who was a scholarship for a Bolts program, and she was in Toronto Community Housing, and she told me she was embarrassed of people seeing where she lived as she was growing up. I said, well, God, I was embarrassed people seeing where I lived because my house was bigger. And so I thought, what is wrong with this world? She's embarrassed of where she lives. I'm embarrassed of where I live. Like, let's meet somewhere in the middle, like you said. And we're judging each other according to that, when it's, it's just, we're making life way more difficult than it needs to be. And I think if we get out of that non-judgment zone, because if you have this, I call it the sea of sameness, right? If everybody who gets to a certain level thinks they need to act the same, think the same, talk the same, that's exactly what we're working against. We're working on, I think Toronto is the capital of mixed use buildings, mixed income buildings. We're trying to get out of that sea of sameness, right? For a good reason, because diversity brings so many beautiful things with it. We talk about innovation, we talk about acceptance, talent, access to different talent, etc., and exposure, like you're saying, food and music, when we have this mixed population. So I just thought the sea of sameness and something as we get into the higher end, and you think people have to, there's a mentality and an attitude that goes with it, and really there's not. You talked about being human beings, right? Not human doings, and just being authentic and real, regardless of where you're living and what your home looks like.
That's right. Just make sure that thing is clean. Okay. I shouldn't have to bathe in flip-flops. Okay.
Exactly.
One bathtub and we're good to go.
So, you talked about your circle of friends and family having a really wide group. There were different races, and led to your versatility and your strength. And we also mentioned the importance of learning how different people live and not being afraid to explore that, because it opens our minds and it opens our hearts, right? So you said, if you've got someone who's invited to go to someone's cottage up north and they've never been to a cottage or don't know what it's like, go see what it's like. Go learn. Vice versa, reciprocate. Let them learn how you live, right? So those are some of the lessons. I'm going to close off with, I'm going to ask you a few from the hip questions. I'm not going to call it rapid fire, because everybody calls it rapid fire. I'm going to call it something cool for Jully Black. I'm going to call it from the hip.
You want to call it in a chocolate?
In a chocolate. I can explain that later to anybody who wants to know. But so you know what? as a community build, from one community builder to another, I'm going to tell you the top things I learned from Jully Black about community. Ready?
Okay.
People have more commonality than differences, and we need more opportunities for people to learn that. Communities need great leaders. It doesn't just happen. They're designed, and you've been one of those leaders in the community you lead, Jully. Shared goals bring people together, and it should be collaboration, not competition. Yes. Music is a pillar of community. And finally, community equals belonging. Those are lessons from you. And some of them I might have had the seedlings for, but you really validated them and you live them. You don't just talk them, you live them, you walk them.
Thank you. And
now we're ready for the from the hip questions before we open it. Sorry?
In a chocolate.
Okay, in a chocolate. You ready for this? And then we'll share it with you in a chocolate. Okay, you ready?
Okay, yeah, ready.
Your greatest musical influence.
Etta James.
Who?
Etta James.
Etta James. Okay, this is a two-part question. Coffee or cocktails with someone no longer gracing us on this earth, and it cannot be family.
Oh.
So coffee or cocktail, and then who's the person?
Cocktails.
Cocktails.
With my sister Sharon, who passed away.
But I said not family.
Oh, shoot.
So I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you two cocktails.
Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on.
What's for Sharon? Yeah.
Cocktails with somebody special.
That's all we're getting? We're not...
That's all we're getting.
Okay, that goes with the inner chocolate later. The other version. Hey, what amenity do you use the most in your condo?
Ooh. Well, it used to be the gym, but it hasn't been open since COVID.
I know.
Gosh.
Okay. Next one. What if you were building a condo, what amenity would you put in there that you don't have?
A step studio.
Of course, silly question. A stage you dream of performing on one day.
O2 Arena.
And give us a little taste. What's next for Jully Black?
What's next is what's now. I don't really think about the next as much. I used to. But it's an illusion and it causes anxiety. So for me, I'll leave this with you guys. If you're feeling fear, your head is too far in the future. And if you're feeling anger, your head's too far in the past. So then you eliminate your now, you're basically dead. If you're too far in the past or too far in the future, you make yourself poof, disappear. You don't even exist anymore. You're just some in between thing. So what's next is what's now. When we get off, this is 3:54. When 3:55 rolls up, I'll let you know what's popping.
Yeah, the gift, the present is the gift. That's what they say, right? So truly.
So it's nice to see you in this space, and I know that you're one of a few women. I know that the seat that you have at that table is a seat that you had to like really kind of show and prove yourself. And I'm glad that you weren't afraid.
Thank you. And yeah. I can do knee, scissor, knee, and I know the inner chocolate. So don't forget that. People are dying to know now what that means, but a select few will know what we're talking about. I can't believe if we don't have any questions. Yeah, I'm sure.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. We do have a couple of
that was
questions.
Deep. I know. And Jully, thank you. You almost made me speak God's language there, but thank you. You touched me.
Okay, so the first question is from Marcia. She wants to know, would you consider writing a book, your journey, and giving some of your inspirational quotes?
So I am writing a book. I'm 13 chapters in, and I think God just sent you to kind of smack me in my face because I haven't been writing lately. So shame to shame. It will definitely, I'm going to write a book I'm writing a book that is part inspiration, quotes and points to ponder, questions to consider, affirmations, all that stuff. So within my life story, so thank you for asking because it's time.
And then we have another question. Danielle wants to know if you can share with us where you draw your courage from and what are 3 to 5 things you would recommend for someone who's looking to find their voice.
Wow. Who's asked me all them questions? Who asked me all them deep questions? So I want everybody right now to close your eyes. If you don't have your feet on the ground, if you have feet, I mean, that's one thing. My sister has a disability, so I say that on purpose, because her feet don't touch the ground. So if your feet can touch the ground, then definitely touch the ground. Feel the ground under your feet. And I want us to really think about, it takes a single match to rid a room of darkness, just a match. So if you are, at work, at home, you're in a space, you're in a funk, think about, boom, just lighting a match. And that darkness goes away. Now that match for me, this is where I draw my strength, my inspiration, my courage from, is light. My mom told me, Drew, you think the sun could get up and say, I don't want to shine today? The sun has to shine every day. And everybody, if you just hold on to this will help you for the rest of your life. Trust me. Here it comes. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. It says, let it shine. That's what I do every day, even when I'm not feeling it. I said, Julie, you can't make it shine. That's resistance. Just let it shine. And how I let it shine for me, I think about all that I've gone through already, all that I've already survived. My mom's passed away, but I'm thriving. My sister passed away, I'm thriving. My brother passed away, I'm thriving. I survived child sexual abuse, I'm thriving. I'm an entrepreneur. I lost everything and earned it all back and then some. I have joy in my heart. My joy bank is full. That's where I dip from. And joy is my GPS. This is my last thing I'm going to say to you on this courage and where I pull from. My faith, I believe in God for sure. But if whatever you're getting into, if it's not bringing joy to your life or bringing you to joy, then you need not be involved. So use joy as your GPS. You can open your eyes now.
Oh, thank you for singing for us. I learned I can cry with my eyes closed. That was beautiful. Thank you. Joy is your GPS. I keep that with me.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so there's one more question. It says, if there was one word you can say to a young Black girl now to motivate her, what would it be?
One word. Well, one word, I'll probably give you 3 words. It is I am enough. Those 3 words definitely are my guiding principles, but also, let's move away from motivation, because there's a motive, and let's move into inspiration, because the first part is in, and you have to be in spirit to be inspired, right? And so I kind of reset and I'm rethinking all of that motivation stuff. There's a lot of motivational speakers. I'm a motivational this, motivational ching 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 coming for your pockets, selling you this program. Oh, if you do my program, I'm here to inspire. I'm here to encourage. I'm here to have impact. Not even influence. Anyone can have influence. Instagram followers, I'm an influencer. You could have 1 follower and have more impact than someone with 1 million followers and have a whole bunch of influence.
Thank you so much. So many words of wisdom. And
We'll do it again.
What is it? Unity is our strength. Community is our currency. And let's keep that in common for the greater good. Thank you to Miss Jully Black.
And you have a cottage? You have a cottage? You must have a cottage.
I do. Are you coming?
Well, I was about to say, listen, everybody, keeping it real. I said to Andrea about my niece and nephews, I said, listen, your white friends and all them, they got cottages, they're inviting you. No shame. Go to the cottage, get in the canoe, get in the water, travel, change your mindset, see the world, get some mosquito bites, hunt, do what you got to do. Stop being so black. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Keeping it real. That's why
we'll be a little more of each other. Sorry?
I said this is why we could keep it real in this space, and each one teach one.
Beautiful. Yeah, community is a mindset. We'll keep that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you
for joining us. Take care. Thanks everyone for joining. Until next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.